American family.
Mm.
What's your opinion on it? And how will it affect the 2020 election?
Wow. Well, you know, if it's to be what we see as a result of some of our young people, how they speak, how they carry themselves, how they present themselves, not all, but a large majority of them, the breakdown of the American family is happening very, very fast. That fabric is tearing. And hopefully, with the elections, we can see, hopefully, and this is a big hopeful, them come back together, vote, participate in the electoral process, learn who the candidates are, be more concerned about the next 5-10 years of where the city, state, and country is going, and participate. But given the breakdown, as you indicated, and I don't know what you were saying with Reverend Jackson, but if it's anything like what I'm seeing, it's some guarded optimism.
Okay. Now, also, there's also, Glenn, a breakdown within the church as far as young people participating. And that has always been one of our very strong points for black people is the church.
Well, when you look at the church, you look at in the 60s, it was the galvanizing piece for any community. So any issues, any economic, any social issues were organized by the church, and the churches worked together. What you have now is a fragmented association with the community. So you've got churches in the community now that are only working with their constituents and not going outside. So you've got a lack of community organizing that's going on. That was a big piece for the churches. Again, as Stephen James just alluded to, the bottom line around family is that we've got to get out and vote. And we've got to get young folks involved in that conversation. This last election, which was one of the better turnouts, was 30% of who was eligible to vote actually voted. So when you look at that, and then you look at our community who traditionally hasn't come out for in between the presidential elections, where all of the local legislators are put in place and elected, we are not helping ourselves because we're not voting for our local people who then will support some national agendas. So we've got some structural changes that we have to make as a community, and the church used to be that, and now we've got this huge void with the church. And of course, we talked about families already, and the fact that you've got single households, women running those households, and men are missing in action, and as a result of that, you've fragmented the family unit, and that in itself causes a void for education, for business, for all of the things that impact us financially and socially.
Okay, hypothetically, I always like to play devil's advocate, George. Would it really make a difference who is in office if the majority of our problems is family, the breakdown of the family, breakdown of the church? I mean, whoever is elected, we had President Obama in, and everybody was really happy to have the first black president in office for 8 years. But what did he change? What was all the changes that he made that helped the minority people? Tell me, George.
Wow, I mean, for me, coming from Africa, that's where my political knowledge was actually honed. I started as a Boy Scout in the Boy Scout movement, and there you learn values like giving back to your community and civic work. So it kind of becomes second nature when I came to the United States. So what I'm doing today is really an extrapolation of those things I've done. So I think something that's missing in the United States that I observe is like there's absence of civic education in schools. I feel that the curriculum can incorporate civic education. That way, the young ones will learn the ideals of being a good citizen, how to help the community, and not just wait till you are 18 and you start voting. Some of them don't even know what voting is about, So besides the family, how things transpire in the family, I think there's the government and the school have a role to play. Coming back to Barack Obama, his presidency was a trailblazing one. The first time a major African rose up to that position. And a lot of people were enrolled, people were excited, and with that excitement, a lot of expectation. But I'm not here to say whether, the expectation was met. I think the administration or the time that he was president, some will argue that it leaves much to be desired. But a lot of things were accomplished during his time. So what I'm looking for, regardless of if we have a Democrat or Republican, let's be able to see ourselves as part of the human race. How do we make our community better? How do we make our country better so that collectively we can work towards a common goal? I personally have a vision of doing more to see how we can bring the youth to understand how to give back to their community. I'm reminded of the saying by, I believe it's John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Absolutely. That's a great point. Go ahead, Stephen.
Oh, I was just going to say that those are very powerful points that George makes. And moving forward, some of the values that he brings from his homeland, from his upbringing, from his participation in politics in Ghana, Nigeria, are very, very useful here. And we can all learn something from that, George. I think that a lot of people have just bring us back a little bit to Pauline's question about what has Barack Obama done for the Black community. I think a lot of people had, to some degree, only to a degree, but to some degree, unreasonable and unrealistic expectations for Barack Obama because he's only one person. He was the first so-called African-American president of the United States, and he had to walk a tightrope. I'm not making excuses. I know he's very powerful. We know that Donald Trump is in office doing all kinds of stuff that he just feels like doing, but then his cabinet is all going to prison. Getting indicted and stuff. So, we can't use that as the market example. However, Barack Obama had to walk somewhat of a tightrope, and given the parameters that he was working within, he did accomplish a lot. And of course, unfortunately, our community was not given the shrift that we would have wanted and that we would have expected given the support we gave to that candidacy. However, it's a first step.
Okay.
And I think that we definitely should look forward to supporting more similarly situated candidates in the future.
Let me jump back on that, because I think that one of the things that is important for us to understand, again, the President of the United States is dictating national policy.
He's right.
If you want to control the quality of life in your community, you've got to put the right elected officials in office. And that's why those off-election years are so important. When you look at Ferguson, for example, Ferguson was, 70% black, something to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
They had no representation in their city council. I think they had maybe one out of 10 or 12 council folks. So it's these kinds of things So when you have someone else controlling your community, then your community is now, because part of what the issue was in Ferguson was that they were giving out parking tickets and speeding tickets and so forth only to people from the black community because they needed to supplement their deficit that they had. So you have these kinds of activities that are now geared towards, broken windows. All of those stop and frisk. All of those are designed to make arrests, but make arrests to who? People in our community. And so our community, if we don't have the right elected officials in place to stand up for us and fight for us, the quality of life is not going to change. So it's important that we vote on those off elections and who we put in elected office for the state and city levels. Critical.
Now, I also want to say I have 3 very powerful black men sitting at this table at this present time, and I would like to ask each and every one of you, what would you like to, or who would you like to see in office and why?
In office?
Yes.
Which office?
The presidency,
Okay.
and even at the lower levels, of our council and so forth. Because the lower levels is also people, the movers and shakers as well as before you even get up to, the White House.
Right, in fact, I think that's what Mr. Sutton was saying.
Yeah. So who would you like to see? Who do you feel that's in the running that's, would make a difference, that really would make a difference?
Well, on a national level, if I may, for presidency, of course, there's a big wide field of Democrats who have now thrown their hat in the race or who are contemplating with exploratory teams, etc., the possibility of throwing a hat in the race, including people who have run in the past, like Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, and others who have run before,
Right.
as well as freshman senators like Kamala Harris and others who are relatively new to the Senate, who also feel emboldened to run for president, Cory Booker, and etc. I like where a lot of the people of color who are running are coming from in terms of their enthusiasm. They, I think, are inspired by the likes of Barack Obama, as well as the likes of, who's the guy in office now? Trump?
Little T.
Yeah,
I call him Little T.
DJ T, the small letters, that's right, the kid from Jamaica. So I think that, States that is, I think they are inspired to some degree by him too, because he's shown people that almost anybody can do this.
Right. Yes.
And then of course Barack Obama with his innovations and his innovative election, I think that has inspired the Kamalas of the world, the Cory Bookers of the world, and others who feel that they can, yes we can. So while it's still early for me to say who I would like, let's say over the other 30 or so candidates on a Democratic ticket, on a Democratic side rather, I'm content at this early point, we're still about 2 years out, just under 2 years out from the election. I'm still content to kind of still watch the field, because some people are not going to stay in, they're not going to make it through the primaries, some are only going to make it to the primaries due to financing. As you know, they say now to run a successful presidential campaign, it takes at least $1 billion, with a B, $1 billion. All those folks are not going to get $1 billion. I can tell you that right off the top. So let's see how it shakes out from all the various reasons and ways that these elections tend to shake out before they actually get down to the nitty-gritty of who's going to actually run.
Okay, before I get back to George, this is our world, our power, where your news reflects you and your community. We're on Caribbean Buzz TV and radio. Thank you all for watching and listening. George, let's get back to you now. Who would you like to see in office?
Okay, so we are just talking about going to the Rainbow Push Coalition.
Right.
Okay, the summit. One of the reasons that I admire the Reverend Jesse Jackson is the role that he played in what is now the progress that was made by, or being made by, especially African American or minorities. I remember in those days, he ran for president in 1988, and 1984 and 88. And during those times, if you recall, he was saying, he was just talking about the rainbow quilt, how the collection of minorities can come together and win. He said, keep hope alive. The slum, you were born in the slum, but the slum was not born in you. He was trying to use that to energize the base of communities that are marginalized, black, brown, and so on and so forth. And because of that effort, people like Wilson Good got elected in Philadelphia, Harold Washington in Chicago, and the mayor in, so many of them became mayor, Dinkins in New York. So he was really someone that played such a vital role to reawaken our community to the progressive level where we are now. So that's one. But also, I want to say also, the saying is that all politics is local and it's accredited to Tip O'Neill or some other person. For instance, I served on the community board for 2 years, and I believe serving in the community board it's not a paid position, but it kind of gave me a bird's eye view of how things work at the grassroots. So I believe that young people should, try to get into such bodies, and serve and see. It gives you a little bit of training how government works, So who I would like to see is really too early to say, as Mr. James just said. But my concern is that we have so many candidates. All right, you have Republican, you have a candidate already, Mr. Trump. But on the other side, for Democrats, you have so many candidates that everybody is almost going progressive. But elections are won in the middle. You have to be within the centuries. You have to come to the center. And I'm wondering how far things will play out, that at the end of the day, I don't want to see a divided Democratic Party. And even though something tells me that we might still see someone like Hillary Clinton in the race before all said and done.
Okay.
Well, it's interesting you said that. I'm like you all as well. It's a little early in the game, but when a woman becomes the president, I will know that the change is on its way. I don't know that America was ready for Hillary the last time around. I suspect that there may be more interest in a woman, in a female president at this point in time. But again, I'm still not sure that we as a country are ready for a woman president. So for me, a woman president would indicate that we're in a transition and hopefully maybe even a transformational movement such that we could actually empower everybody in our society. And I think that that's something that's still, that's what the American dream is standing for, is everybody having an equal opportunity to advance themselves, pulling themselves up by the bootstraps.
Now, we also was talking about young people. I know you sit on the council, city council?
No, I said community board.
Community board, okay, community board. Okay, community board, excuse me.
Community board 12, yes.
Now, do you see young people involved in the community?
Young people are stepping through. I think that it's an opportunity for more of them to partake and to get some experience. I was thinking when George mentioned that, the JFK redevelopment push. We've got a huge economic development opportunity. We're looking to create a community benefits agreement for this community, and the millennials have been part of that conversation because I think that they're ready and right to move some of us old heads out of the way so that they can get the opportunity to do some of the work. They've got some new, fresh ideas, and until we bring them into the fold, we're going to have the same that we've been having. So I think that with young people there comes new energy, new vitality, and new innovation. And I think that that's what we need in politics and in the church, as we were talking about earlier. So those are opportunities.
Amen.
Yeah.
Talking about new energy, to hurry up, the newly elected congressional, the lady that won Congress in the 14th district,
Cortez?
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is my Congress member.
Okay.
29 years old, but she's brought so much dynamic in Congress now. A lot of things, the new Green Deal and so on and so forth. And about this time, last Saturday, we were in the Bronx inaugurating her. She had her inauguration and I was happy to be part of that. So a lot of young people are coming up into politics, and that's a good thing. Because what happened invariably is like people get so old or they age out and there's no people to take over. So it's not a good thing. We have to train or begin to nurture some young people so that when the other people phase out, these young people will take over from where they stopped.
We've got to mentor them. We've got to bring them in and have them be up front and us kind of guiding them and coaching them.
Yeah.
But they need to be out front doing the work with our experience, with our help, so that they are not going to have the same pitfalls that we have, but we will discover some new areas of opportunity and innovation.
And now, these community boards, and how do people get on them?
How do you get on a community board? There's an application. The application is actually due by March 1st. You take that application into your city council member, and they then recommend you to the borough president's office to be part of the community board. So of course the borough president has a big say in it. But one of the things that if people are interested, attend the community board meetings. There's a general meeting. Most of the community boards have economic development, they have land use and zoning, they've got elderly, consumer affairs, there are lot parks, so there are lots of areas for people to lend their expertise in, and that's how you become known in the community. That's how people begin to know you. You make some presentations at the community board because each committee does a report. So you've got education giving a report, you've got transportation giving a report, because these are reports that are giving you information about what's going on in your area. Economic development, we've been talking about all of the new buildings and the gentrification and what we're doing to make sure that people know about the housing that's moving in, know about jobs that are related to the development that's going on. The community boards are a very functional community informational point for people to be part of and to know what's going on in their community.
Now, George, I know you was on community board 4,
Yes.
and you know everybody. I mean, and everybody knows George and Onuorah. How was your time spent on the board? What did you get out of it? I know you're running for office and stuff like that, but what are you getting out of it? What have you gotten out of it over the
I
years?
was fortunate to have worked for Council Member Helen Sears in the district. I was her liaison. So then after that, I was appointed recommended by Daniel Drum, but actually it was Helen Marshall that signed off on that. So, and I did serve 2 terms, which was a very refreshing for me. I learned a lot. I became chair of the Consumer Affairs Committee, and what I did during that tenure was to organize every summer a town hall meeting whereby I bring different businesses and even city council members, assembly, senate, and all, and we met at Queen Center Mall and discussed how to make things better. And that was really a very big thing. And we were able to accomplish a lot because I don't know if you know, Queen Center is one of the highest grossing mall per square feet throughout the
No, I
country.
did not know. I was not realize
so,
that
you
was
know,
the situation.
Yes, it was
Really.
really big, you know. So,
And what are they, by the way, what are they doing for the community? What are they doing?
you mean Queen Center?
Yeah, Queen Center Mall.
Queen Center Mall, for the large part, has been a good neighbor to the community.
Okay.
For instance, I know they support initiative by the youth. For instance, when a group of kids wanted to get something for Christmas, they were able to donate some toys during holiday program. And they do a lot of things. They have programs for young people on particular Saturdays in the morning. But what happened is that many don't know about this program. So, and they do a whole lot of things. Yeah.
That's very good. I understand that. I will get back to you. This is Our World, Our Power, where we are here with Mr. Glenn Remich, Mayor of Southern Boulevard, Lady Pauline, and my lovely attorney, Stephen E. James, attorney at law, attorney at war.
The man of the hour, the one with the power, he who has the master plan right here in the palm of his hand. Stephen G. James, attorney at law.
Now, tell me, how can everybody be reached? That's the most important thing. People want to get a hold of you. George, how would people get a hold of you?
Yeah, Dr. George Onuorah, of course. I can be reached through email, grisingson@yahoo.com. I can be reached on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn.
Okay. And Stephen?
I can be reached at the law firm of Stephen G. James, 87-66 Sutphin Boulevard. That's in the great city of Jamaica here in the county of Queens. And also, our phone number is area code 646-905-9000. That's 646-905-9000. And you could also reach me on Facebook, The Hour of Power, with the attorney Stephen G. James.
And this is Lady Pauline, and you can reach me at ourworldmediamagazine@gmail.com or 646-340-7271. Glenn?
www.sutphin, SUTPHINBLVDBID.org. That's our website. The number is 718-291-2110.
Okay, thank you.
Amen.
Amen. We'll be right back in a few minutes. Dr. George Onuorah, welcome to Our World, Our Power Hour.
Thank you.
Now, a lot of things has been going on with the community and in the world. A lot of it has been about race, unfortunately. What's your take on all the stuff that's been going on, especially with Jesse Smollett? And they say he's the first black man to take a noose and put around his neck, and there was nothing, it was all for show. How do you feel that's influencing, the black movement, the community and everything, how people feel?
Wow. It's really something that, it's been going on for a few days now. I want to stay on the positive note to say that we should try to do our best to teach good moral values to our children. And we need to speak the truth. We have to, because we can't we have to cut through the chase. But, in terms of what happened in Chicago with Jesse Smollett, I'm not really too, even though a lot of things has been said over the media, but, it will really take time for me to kind of, one way or the other, make a concrete, say something on that. But I'll probably defer to my colleagues who are here, So that maybe
If I may.
suggest
Yes.
share the little.
Absolutely, the Jussie Smollett situation is very, very this unfortunate. While Pauline said that he's probably the first black man to put a noose around his neck, I know he certainly is the first one to buy a felony for $3,500. And having said that, we have to use the word allegedly, of course.
Of course.
Yes.
And being an attorney for 32 plus years, I certainly don't want to be off center with my characterization. So until it's proven by a totality of the circumstances and certainly beyond a reasonable doubt in court of law, I'll say allegedly. But you know, the state's attorney in Cook County, Chicago, laid out such a beautiful case Thursday from A to Z and then back from Z to A on what she believed Jussie Smollett did. And I would be hard pressed to figure out how he's going to get out of that noose around the neck, if you will.
Yes.
Some people say that it set back race relations, relations between the hetero and homosexual community as well, some years.
Yes.
Because he garnered a lot of sympathy. He didn't just make a police report, but he actually went on the talk show circuit. And he really garnered a lot of attention, sympathy, anger. You know, he stirred up a lot of emotions from the various communities.
Didn't our president even say something?
He tweeted.
And he said that it was unfortunate and that, you know, it shouldn't have happened. And I think anybody who, under the circumstances of when it was first reported, who believed that it happened, because none of us, I think, would believe that someone would simply make that up for no reason. So people tended to believe the initial reports and the initial proclamations that Jussie made. However, as he continued to speak and appear on different talk shows and NBC and ABC, etc., the story kind of got more and more embellished. He got more and more indignant. And then when he refused to turn over his phone, that was a red sign for me. Okay? His manager, who he said he was speaking with at the time of the attack or shortly thereafter, turned over his phone, but Smollett refused to turn over his. I was suspicious of that. Then I also became a little suspicious when he said that two MAGA hat wearers were walking down the street at 1:37 a.m. in Chicago on a wintry night, I think it was under 10 degrees, and they recognized him. Now, your own mom or dad would probably not recognize you if you're dressed properly at that hour, walking down the street. Why would these two people happen upon him, recognize him, and then agree amongst them between themselves to attack him? All the circumstances just didn't add up. So when it came out that, in fact, he may have, in fact, staged this whole thing, and then all the evidence that supported it was presented by the state's attorney on Thursday morning, it kind of brought home and justified my position that it was somewhat skeptical, this story. So I think he did set race relations to a certain degree, homosexual, heterosexual community relations back to a certain degree, because you know, the next person who this may in fact happen to, because we know these things do happen.
Right.
That's why it was so believable. It wasn't an incredible story.
No, it wasn't.
It was just that the circumstances that he told them was somewhat incredible. But we know in and of themselves, these things do happen. So who knows if that's the impetus that the right wing needs to say, hey, it's just another fake Jussie Smollett. You're doing a Jussie Smollett the next time someone cries wolf about something like this.
What's your opinion now, Glenn?
I don't have a whole lot more to add. I mean,
How do you feel? I mean,
well,
watching it unfold.
I'm not going to let you have this, Glenn.
I'm embarrassed.
Okay.
I'm embarrassed. I feel like it was a disservice. We've got enough things that are going on against us to not create some fake news about it. I think that he's a tremendously talented young man, and he's just put his career in the toilet bowl.
Yeah.
So I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the event, and that it occurred during Black History Month.
How about this?
So I mean, so when I look at what the media has done with it, and we had a terrorist, a known terrorist that was found, caught, and
the Coast Guard?
Yeah, the Coast Guard guy, We haven't heard anything
Right,
about
that was
him.
completely waxed over.
Yeah,
And that was a real danger
and
to
that's
society. He was talking about
that's a real
killing
danger,
hundreds and
exactly.
hundreds of people.
I mean, he had enough to start his own small army.
And fully intended
Yeah.
to, but in his own words.
Yeah. So, you know, so I look at that and I say to myself, wow, you talk about timing, you talk about the impact. We're already in a volatile environment. You've now, you know, threw gasoline onto that
And
flame.
scratched off the scab of race relations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, do you all think that maybe, just maybe, this might be all staged? I'm gonna mention something that we had mentioned in our first show, and of course, it all ties in together. R. Kelly, 10 counts of sexual abuse. Everything happening in February. And which is,
Well, I don't think the R. Kelly situation is a coincidence. And
well, I
that
mean,
it's
they're
happening in
bringing him up
February.
on charges, it's in February. And then it was like one day apart from the Jesse,
Small.
Small.
Well, I can tell you this, I think, just if I can add on to what
Sure.
Lynn said about Smollett's career, he, in my view, and I watched Empire years ago when it first came out for the first few seasons, very talented, so much so I at first didn't even believe or know that he was the actual singer of the
Yeah,
songs.
right.
He's really a singer.
Yes, he is.
And you very rarely see that, you know,
Right,
the actor
yes.
is such a good actor, and then he turns around and he's a better singer.
Right.
Right. So he definitely is a talented young man. He's what, 25, 26 years old, so he's very young, doesn't really have a lot of experience in terms of international relations. So I don't think he even thought about it on that level. He was looking at it on a very basic, sophomoric level of, if I get enough attention, I can then lobby for more money because I'll be a bigger name. Very, very foolish of him.
Yeah.
Where I think the reverse has happened, and he may find it hard to find a job at Pete's Lounge from here on. You know,
Yeah,
seriously,
yeah.
he's gonna be a person they'll just say hands off.
Yeah.
He was fired at Empire,
Yes.
you know, immediately on Thursday when he went to work after he got out of court. They wrote him out of the script. And of course, the diplomatic way to say it is, well, we wrote, you know, we don't want to have a distraction, and we'll let the penal system take its course, blah, 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 the judicial system will take its course, and we'll sit down and reorganize from there. But he's not coming back to Empire. And I don't think he's gonna get to go back anywhere. I think his credibility has been shot,
Absolutely.
and he's been typecast as the character in Empire as it is.
Right.
So, and he's lost, see, here's the problem. The communities from which he comes, the gay community and the black community, and in both those communities, he's damaged both of them.
Yes.
So the constituency is not there. No one's gonna speak for, right, for
Yeah.
Jesse Smollett. So he really, really did damage, yes, to the communities, but more so to himself long term.
Yes.
We will recover. We will recover. I don't know if he will.
Right.
So,
George, how you feel it was going?
you know, against that background, I'm now thinking about what has happened in Virginia with the controversy with the governor and the
Oh, yes.
deputy governor.
Lieutenant
So
governor.
what has this really done to race relation in America?
Well, I know those guys were kind of happy that they got off the news for a minute. You know, this definitely took priority. Last week we didn't hear a thing about the lieutenant governor or the attorney general. They were all kind of like breathing a sigh of relief. But they'll be back. You guys are going back on the news in a minute.
Well, George, Dr. George Onuorah, what's going on with that? Tell me, what have you been hearing from the inside?
You know, it's really a messed up situation because the governor is in trouble, the deputy governor to replace him is in trouble.
Fairfax.
The attorney general, is that the attorney general?
Attorney general, yeah.
Is in trouble, so it's just a whole mess. And then on top of that, you hear about Mr. Smollett. So I'm wondering what all this will do to race relations in America. Are we really a country divided? How do we close this gap? And then on top of that, you have issue with the current administration. The president is at loggerhead with the rest of society or the rest of Americans. And this really poses a big challenge, you know.
But then you have many in his administration being indicted, being investigated, going to jail, speaking to Congress, meeting behind closed doors with the Senate. I mean, that doesn't bode well for a smooth running, successful administration. You know, so that's a mess in and of itself.
So we're in a big mess, really, so to speak.
When you really look at it, yeah, we have some housekeeping to do.
Well, you know, one of the things that I'm as I said, I always like to play devil's advocate. With all the things that's going on with the government and the politicians, why, do you think people feel they shouldn't go out and vote? I mean, I can understand that, because it's like you're putting people into office and, you have the highest regard for them and you think they're going to do a good job, and then you're hearing all these different scandals over and over. So when election day comes, I mean, I personally sometimes feel like staying in my bed, because it doesn't make a difference who's going to win, because it's going to be the same old, stuff over and over. What do you think, Dr. George and Onuorah?
I think politics has gotten a bad name, recently. We have all gone in corruption going on for a long time now. So, and sometimes I think the influence of money is part of it. Why don't we just kind of sanitize the polity by saying, we're not going to be paying all this money we're paying to these people just to represent us. Why don't we, like you do in the community board, you're not paid, but yet you render good service. Yeah, would let it be something that people have passion. I want to serve my community. And then you serve your community, not about how much you're going to get or $1 billion for presidential election campaign and things like that. The influence of money has corrupted politics in this country. And just like in other countries too. But so that's a conversation we need to have some other day. But really, we need to bring politics back to where it used to be.
But
service to community.
Who was it who said, I know you know who made a lot of different sayings in history, power corrupts, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. Who said that?
Power corrupts absolutely, power corrupts absolutely. I'm trying to...
Someone in the Winston Churchill vein.
Winston Churchill,
Yes.
Winston Gray, British.
And we're seeing that now play out.
Yes.
We're seeing that play out. Because all the president's men seem to be folding and fumbling and tumbling down.
I would encourage anyone to not give up. We definitely need a transformation because the current government structure isn't working. Not the structure isn't working, but the inability of the Democrats and the Republicans to work together again. Now, part of this came up when the Tea Party infiltrated the Republican Party, and the Republican Party has not been the same since then.
Right.
And so you've got a division that has taken place that I would call radical. And the radical movement within the Republican Party have basically said, it's my way or the highway. And they started this stoppage of working together. Until that gets reversed, both on the Republican and the Democrat side, but mostly what it looks like is the Republican side, in terms of them really getting back together and standing for what they stood for 15 or 20 years ago, although I'm not an advocate for that either, because I think it's a little different style, but I think the Tea Party has been the corrupting factor that has created most of the dysfunction that exists today.
And division.
Yeah.
I agree.
So one of the things, public advocate election is coming up on Tuesday.
Yes.
And it's an election where you have maybe 7 or
17.
17, but I think it's been whittled down to a few.
That's probably about 5 or 6.
Right, but do you have any idea?
Serious candidates.
Yes. Do you have any idea who you think might come out on Tuesday as the winner?
Jumani seems to be one of the leading contenders, and he's been doing a lot of letters and posters and things being delivered to the House. So he's got the name recognition going for him right now. Is that enough? Not sure. But I would certainly put him as one of the front runners for the conversation.
Okay. I agree. I think Jumani has certainly put himself out there. He's been aggressively campaigning. a lot of the 5 top contenders, the remaining 12, are people I've only seen or heard about once, if at all.
If at all.
And some of them I just heard about last week. I saw a guy riding down Sutphin, down your boulevard,
Yes.
with a wrapped van, Rajneesh Pupang or something from Indonesia. So the point is that, maybe he just got his van wrapped just in time to make that one run. and that's his whole investment of publicity of campaigning and advertising. So I think most of them are like that. There has been also rans that we don't really know about. But of those who have somewhat of a name recognition, I think Jumaane might be one of the lead contenders. And that's what people vote these days.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, in the whole midst also, there are people that feel that Eric Orange, the Republican,
Yes.
Yes.
has a chance too, because he's the only candidate that all Republicans will vote for. So it's Jumaane or Eric.
Okay.
That's how I see it.
Yes, if Jumaane's Democratic constituency is bifurcated by all the other contenders on the Democratic side. Gotcha.
Could be, yeah.
Well,
That's very good. Well, every Saturday, we're here from 5 to 6, Our World, Our Power. And the last Saturday of every month, we're going to be talking about politics. So if anybody has any questions or would like anything to be discussed, please contact Our World Media Magazine at gmail.com or the Our World, Our Power with Stephanie James, and we can discuss whatever it is that
it's on your mind.
what's on your mind, okay?
Amen.
All right, so please follow us and subscribe to us, Our World, on our YouTube page, and which is Media One. And thank you all for listening. Again, thank you, my guest, Dr. Onuorah.
Thank you, Doctor, for joining
Thank you.
us.
It's a pleasure to
Thank you,
join
George.
you.
Thank you, George, for coming.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure talking with you.
Same here.
And my co-host, Stephanie James,
Pleasure.
and Mr. Glenn Greenwich from the Southern Bid.